Stangibelisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1 GV. Whiskey 1, good vibrations. A colleague, a viewer, just asked me a question, so I'm going to provide the answer in a video. My Venerable Vertical, that is the kind of antenna I use. A quarter wavelength resonant vertical. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's mounted on the railing of my deck, and I have radial wires underneath that antenna, cut for a quarter of an electrical wavelength at 10, 15, 20, and even 30 meters. I don't believe I have 12 or 17 meter radials underneath the deck, but I might be wrong about that. I might, but just one, underneath the deck and out of sight. The antenna itself, quarter wavelength electrically, but it's lengthened. It's cut for 22 meters, or 22 feet long for the 14 megahertz band, and resonance is obtained by placing a 50 picofarad capacitor at the base. So it actually, in effect, is an electrical quarter wavelength at 14 megahertz. And that is the optimal band that I use it on. And the standing wave ratio, actual SWR on that antenna, is about 1.5 to 1, but it can vary anywhere from 1.3 to 1.7, depending on how much snow we have on the deck. That vertical antenna comprises aluminum tubing telescoping, which in the summertime can be pulled out and laid down on the deck to protect against lightning. In the wintertime, there is no lightning here in the black holes of the Dakota Territory. Or at least we don't have to worry about it much, but I still disconnect the antenna at the feed point from the feed line, which is a approximately 75-foot length of, I believe it's called RG8X. It's 52 ohm coax, but it's about the size and diameter of RG59U coax, like the kind you use for cable television or cable internet. But anyway, it runs along in the basement down to my radio, and on CW I run 10 watts output, and on PSK 31 I run 7 watts output, even though the radio is capable of producing 100 watts output, because I don't want problems with RF in the shack, and I don't want problems with EMI to my neighbors. And I like quasi-QRP. I believe true QRP, you have to have 5 watts or less. But I've made a lot of contacts with a clear shot to the south and east from this location. The shot to the northwest is rather obstructed by a hill. But nevertheless, I've still made contacts all over the world and have broken pile-ups in contests just for fun. Defeated stations that had a lot more power and a lot better antennas than I have. Just, it works. It works. But that's the kind of antenna I use. My Venerable Vertical. That is an answer to the question from my viewer in Omaha, Nebraska. And just don't know if you're going to get anything out of that. The arrangement that you have, as you described it to me, an end-fed random wire grounded at the far end, sounds just fine to me. If it works, you don't necessarily have to fix it, but if you like to play around with antennas, you might try something like what I have. My Venerable Vertical. Stangibelisco, W1GV, saying 73, and so long, which on CW or in any other frequency well, on 14 megahertz or any other frequency. On CW, my native fist shall always translate to so long, da-da-da-da-da-da.